Hi, I'm Jordy. I'm one of the co-founders of the Independent Surfer. I usually do the tutorials, and this is my fiance, Kim.
I'm Kimberly. I'm the other co-founder of the Independent Surfer, and today basically I just asked Jordy for some advice about getting more vertical on my turns because we're about to go surfing. I always do carves, and I really want to start doing snaps. So
what I see a lot of the time with intermediate and advanced surfers trying to start to learn to do snaps and, you know, kind of like improve their repertoire of turns is a lot of people end up taking, well, you might not know this already, but we'll discuss this in a little bit, but they end up like when you surf, you can take specific lines from while you're on the wave, and a lot of people end up surfing towards the shoulder instead of surfing top to bottom, and I'll show you what we mean by that in a short moment. I'm just going to draw up a quick wave here just to give you context. Please excuse my artistic skills. I'm not an artist. That's why I do this instead. So I'll give you an idea. So when we surf, there are multiple different lines that we can take. So I want you to think of surfing as drawing on a canvas. So like you're painting, you're an artist, and you want to do some painting. And everything we do when we start painting is we draw lines. So as you're getting up and you're writing, you can pretty much choose whatever line you want to take. So like as an example, like obviously that's going to be determined by a few things. One, your preference on what you want to do. And number two, what the wave is going to do, because you have to surf according to what the wave is going to do. And then like from that, you're going to have to surf according to your ability. And then you're going to have to choose something according to what you can do. So as we talk about it, there's multiple different lines to take, and as you get up, again, as I said before, you're going to choose which line to take, depending on how much control you have over your board and, you know, what kind of maneuver you want to do, and again, lastly, what the wave is going to do. So as you get up, the majority of people, when you first start out as a surfer, right? Like, do you remember when you first started surfing, you probably took which line?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I first started, I would have taken a D line. So basically just going straight into the white water and completely miss the shoulder, maybe stand up around here, go for a second, and then fall off.
Yeah, and so this is just because like when you start out, you know, like you're not sure how to turn the board and stuff like that, and maybe a pop-up is like mistimed and you just end up going straight. So, but then when you start to learn to surf, you start to take these other lines, and people really encourage surfers to take this A line or B line because it's the best way to keep going with the wave. So if you end up taking these lines, then it's really great because you can keep going with the wave, but it limits the kind of maneuvers that you want to do, right? So like when you first start out surfing, what's the first maneuver that you would say that you learn to do?
Probably a cutback.
So yeah, so it's like the easiest one in surfing. You just go basically a cutback, like essentially what it is going in this direction on the wave and then going back in that direction and coming back in that direction finally on the wave. Yeah, super easy. You don't need a lot of speed to do a cutback, so it makes it very, very easy. And again, you already know how to just turn this way on the wave, so you're just learning to turn the board. Then as you started getting better, what was the next maneuver in your progression?
Probably a bottom turn?
No, well, I mean like top turn, like kind of like
top turn. So then I guess the next progression would be doing a carve on the wave.
A carve.
Maybe a down carve.
So the next thing that you're going to learn to do in your progression is probably a carve, and basically this requires a little bit more speed. And as we spoke about the lines before, you have to take a B or C line instead of a line. So again, cutback, you took an A line, carve, you took a B or C line, and that's going to kind of bring you down to more towards the bottom of the wave and come up towards the top and kind of draw this S shape that you see here. So this is like how you move in your surf progression. You start with a cutback, then you go to a carve, and then you start to learn to do what Kim wants to learn to do more now is
like a vertical snap.
A vertical snap. So, I mean, like, there are so many variations of these maneuvers that we're talking about. We're just kind of like using a generalization of what you want to find yourself doing. So when we talk about a vertical snap, like, don't get me started on all the different variations that you can go into. So we're not going to like be very, very specific, but just kind of get you a general idea.
Maybe we'll do videos on those specific variations in the future.
Yeah, but they're so nuanced, like of where you need to change pressure on your feet and all the stuff, and how much your board needs to go past the lip of the wave. But like that's like each one is like a whole discussion on its own. So as Kim said, we're not going to go into great detail about that. So there's a concept that I want to explain, and I think Kim knows it already, but I'll just kind of like explain it so that you know as well. The wave is made up into 3 parts, right? And what would you say those 3 parts are, Kim?
That's a great question. So the peak, the trough, and the face, and the lip.
Yeah, so we were kind
Those are 4 parts.
We will kind of call it that. So I mean, the wave is, sorry, that was a very general question. The waves are made up of many parts, and we try and break them down into 3 sections from top to bottom. So here you have, and I'll just write this quickly so you can see. Here at the bottom you have the trough, and that's where you're going to lose a lot of speed. In the middle you're going to have, let's just call this the wall or open face. And then the top is just kind of the top, and we'll call this maybe like the, I don't want to call it the lip because that's a very defined part that's falling. We'll just call this
maybe like the top third of the
top,
wave.
The top third. Okay, and so you have all these different parts of the wave. So the way a wave works is you have momentum pushing you forward. So this is how you're going to like gain speed when surfing, right? So there's obviously speed generation, but we're not going to get, again, into great detail about that now. We're just going to talk about how this wave gives you speed. So you paddle into the wave is pushing you forward. You gain speed because the wave is pushing you forward. Gravity pulls you down, so as you go down the wave, you have like, it's like going down a skate ramp or going down a hill or whatever. Like you're going to have this gravity pulling you down. And then where the wall of the wave is pretty much is you're going to have a slight bit of momentum pushing up because that's the wave drawing up off the reef or drawing up off the sandbank, like lifting up. And then at the trough of the wave, unfortunately, but also fortunately, there's nothing creating speed. You don't have gravity pulling you down anymore, and you don't have this little bit of the wave, like the wave drawing up off the reef, right? And so you lose speed, which is both a good and a bad thing, right? Would you agree?
Yes, I think I know where you're going with this.
Cool. So like, what would you say in your experience, like, how often would you say that you get to this trough area?
I would say that as a beginner, I was always getting stuck here, and it was quite frustrating. So what I did was I learned how to stay at this top third of the wave and start pumping down the line so that I wouldn't have like the section breaking in front of me because I wanted to stay with the wave. I think now, in my experience, I've gotten so used to staying at this like top third of the wave that I completely avoid ever going down to this trough because I don't want the section to break in front of me and lose the wave.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. You like get comfortable with like riding the wave for what it is, but really like the ultimate way and the most critical way, besides doing aerials, which again is a whole extra topic that we won't get into.
We're gonna learn that next.
Yeah, is you want to be surfing the wave as vertically as possible, right? That's how you're gonna do snaps. So as we said before, we have these lines, A, B, C, and D, and you can take whichever line you want, again, according to what the wave is doing and according to your ability and what you want to do in relation to what the wave is doing. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you answer this question. This being A, B, C, and D, which line or lines specifically, like, do you think you should take to do a snap? And you can go ahead and answer that question. We'll get to it in a moment.
I know the answer.
Kim knows the answer. What is it?
You should definitely be taking this D line.
This D line. All right. But that also depends on what the wave is doing, right? If the wave has like a little section here, then what do you think you're going to want to do?
That's my biggest question about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you.
That's why you asked me for the information. Okay, so basically, like, if we just backtrack a little bit and we go to what a normal snap would end up with, like a normal snap. Like, so you take off. Let's just run this scenario by scenario. So you take off. Depending on where you take off, like if you're somebody who's able to take off right under the pocket, that's great, because then it's easy to just take this line and go up and do a snap right in this area here. But again, like it's so nuanced, like it all depends on what this particular part of the wave is doing. If it's quite vertical, it's going to be quite intimidating, and you're going to go up and go to the top, and then you're going to go and try and do the snap, right? But as I said before, like that intimidation factor, like going all the way to the bottom of the wave, now you have like the full height of the wave in front of you. It makes the wave much more intimidating to surf, because you're not like halfway up the wave seeing half the size of the wave. So that's number one, like getting over that intimidation factor. So as you go down the wave, now this is a concept I want to just like touch on quickly, and sorry Kim, we're going to get to like answering your question in a moment, but just to explain to you. When you go down the wave, you're going to lose a ton of speed. Like, because you're going to end up in this trough area, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I just want to draw parallels to riding a bicycle or going on a motorbike. If you go around a corner, in order to turn a corner of a specific degree of angle, you need to either have a lot of speed or less speed. And with this specifically, you're almost taking like, you're ending up turning like 90-degree angle here, like not all at once. You're not going to go like, no, this is 180, sorry. So you're going to end up turning like almost like a 180-degree angle. And so in order to do that, you can't be going too fast, because as soon as you're going too fast, you're going to fall off, right?
Yeah.
What happens if you're going too slow?
You're just going to lose balance and kind of fall off as well.
You're just going to lose balance and kind of fall off, and exactly like Kim said. And then you're never ever going to make it to the top of the wave either, because you've lost all your speed. So there's like a perfect amount of time that you need to be spending here at the bottom of the wave. All right, so in the case that, because surfing is like a canvas, like each wave is like a canvas, and you can take whichever line you want.
Yes.
When there is like a section here, and you've got up, and you don't have any time to make it to the section, and so you're going to end up wanting to do the turn on the other side here instead, right?
Yes.
So what you got to do in that instance is, remember, so you can choose A, B, C, or D. Maybe you're going to take an A line, or B line, or C line, but you won't take a D line in this instance, right? Because then you're just going to end up here, and it's just going to close out on you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I feel like happens a lot.
So in this case, you're going to want to like take 1 or 2 pumps and go in this direction as quick as you can. But then as soon as you get close to this white water, you're going to want to change your line from a or B line to like a C or D line. So let's just say you take this line here. Once you get here, you have the option to like take another, you can like choose again. Like you have multiple points in the wave where you can choose which line you want to take.
That's actually a really good point, because I feel like a lot of times in my head I'm like stuck with the line. I'm like, okay, I'm up at the top of the wave, and now I want to go do a snap, but I'm at the top of the wave. It doesn't even occur to me that I could actually like change my mind and go and do, like go to a different line.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that you are figuring it out.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult. Like it's a lot harder than than it makes out to seem, because like it makes sense that that's what you think, because like it's hard to think about what you're going to do while you're already on the wave.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So like you almost like need to preemptively make that decision while you're popping up. You need to have like it mapped out in your brain, like what you're going to kind of do. And then you can, and the best way to do that is like, as you're paddling in, keep your eyes down the line. And when you're popping up, keep your eyes down the line. And the longer you keep your eye on this point here, the more you're going to be able to act to the situation as opposed to react. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know if that helps at all.
No, that absolutely does, I think, especially with the kind of waves we're surfing where they're really predictable, they're reef breaks. Mm. Yeah.
So then that brings me to the next point, like when it comes to doing this this turn in the trough, like remember the higher the degree of turn that you do, the more you need to engage your rail, which means the more you need to kind of like be compressed. Because if you try and engage your rail a lot while standing very tall, then one, your turning radius is going to be quite high. Like, how do I explain this? You're this person, and you're standing tall on your board. You're going to have to go around your whole body. Like, I don't know how to explain this more in depth.
You have to go around your whole body.
Yeah, like with your, okay. Like, it's like being on a motorbike versus being in a car. Like, which of the two things are going to be able to turn a smaller turning circle?
Oh, the motorbike.
The motorbike, because it's more compressed,
and
right?
you kind of lean into it.
You kind of are able to lean into it. But my point here is, if you're standing tall, you have a much bigger turning radius. Because you have to turn around your whole body. Whereas if you compress, you're able to make that small. You're able to lean into it more.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, like you see, I feel like I can totally envision the professional surfers doing it on their backhand, maybe, where they get really low and you can really see how twisted they are. And so they're able to turn a lot more tightly.
Exactly. So being able to get low, because that's going to help you create like more compression. Also, it's going to help you have more balance when you lean over onto the rail much more.
Yes.
So that's pretty much it for the idea of it. Not necessarily like how to do it. Like, I don't know, does this make sense? Like, it is how to do it in theoretical information, but it's not like how to do it as in terms of like body movement. It's just like how to understand what and where to do it when you're trying to do it.
So that you're at least getting in the right place, basically, because I'm always finding myself all the way here doing like a kind of lame cutback or a decent carve, but yeah.
So do you want to draw that? Do you want to show them like more or less how you would do it? Okay,
should I draw my drawing skills?
Okay, so what Kim's saying again is, we touched this on the beginning of the video, is Kim saying that she's constantly coming out to the shoulder and doing a cutback.
Yes.
And doing a snap is quite the opposite. You have to go down into this trough area, because you can't come down here and then go up here and then go back down there. It's just like the laws of physics just don't work that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain all of that. I just know that you need to be in this area and come down. It's like turning a corner like you watch the MotoGP guys. Like, if your circuit's like this, and then, sorry, this is gonna be really poor, but they usually there's like a perfect point like that you can go around the apex of the turn. You need to come in wide and cut in there, and stay wide and cut in there. And it's kind of the same with surfing. You can't just like turn on a whim.
So today when we go surfing, if I want to start really working on my snaps, instead of getting up and pumping down the line, I really have to focus on going down, like taking a D line, going down, and then trying to go back up.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm not doing.
Yeah. And so, again, we're not going to get into the whole movement, but in this instance, like when you're doing this and you're coming to the bottom of the wave and you risk losing all your speed, you really need to have the right form, and you really need to be able to lean on your rail a lot, because if you don't, you create a lot of friction with the bottom of your board. So that's a whole nother concept that we're not going to get into. But and then if you can't deal on your rail enough and turn that board enough, then you're just going to lose your speed. And then when you come to do your snap at the top of the wave, you're going to struggle to do the snap because you're not going to get there, right? So just be careful that you don't spend too much time at the bottom of the wave.
So it has to be fast.
It has to be fast, and also within context of the wave, right? Because if the wave isn't giving you a section to do a snap, then there's no ways you're going to be able to do the snap. So you
can't just do it on every wave, I guess, which is what I try to do sometimes.
Yeah, so it's just about also like having a good read on what the wave is going to do. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's so many, it just doesn't end. You could talk about this all day. There's more things that we could discuss, but I guess that's all for today.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, are you sure that's helpful?
Yeah.
You're not just saying it because you're watching?
No, it's really helpful. Like I know what to focus on. I'm gonna go to our surf spot and I'm gonna take off and I'm gonna try and be try and take more of a D line instead of just trying to get up and pump, because I'm at the point where I don't need to just pump down the line anymore.
Yeah.
I need to start trying to do this, and I know I'll always make it past the section. Like, I know I can pump around it.
Cool.
So
Cool.
yeah,
So
it's really helpful.
One more thing that I'd like to help with this is there's also this concept, like people think like, oh, you can only pump to get down the line of the wave, but you can also pump in your bottom tone, and they call, like, you'll see a lot of professionals doing this. If I bring one thing to mind, like Italo Ferrero was recently surfing at Uluwatu, and I watched his video, and he was able to beat sections like you cannot believe, and he was like doing this double pump. He was pumping a lot in his bottom tone, and so don't forget that you can also use this pump, one, to either increase your speed to help you get to the right section, or two, to even buy you time at the bottom of the wave without losing too much speed. If that makes any sense.
You mean like when you're in the white water, right? Like, say if you end up...
No.
No.
I mean like if you're coming out of the white water, or you're a little bit ahead of the white water in your bottom tone. Yeah. And that's another concept. So like, I know
That's really advanced.
I know I drew this like this, and especially if you're an advanced surfer, you can be like, oh, that's wrong. You should be coming out of the white water. This is just to give you context, and yes, ideally, when you're finishing your tones, you're finishing them in the white water, and then when you're coming out of your tones, you're coming out of the white water, because then you're going to be in the most critical part of the wave to do a snap. You kind of can't do a snap out on the shoulder. So again, as I said, it's all in relation to what the wave is doing, right? So if you end up trying to go for a snap and it's not working, but you're doing everything right, chances are you're probably just too far out on the shoulder.
Yes, I think that's the thing a lot of like people, maybe my level, like intermediates or maybe advanced intermediates are doing. They're avoiding the white water entirely. You learn as a beginner to like avoid the white water, and you want to get away from it, but then as you get more advanced, you want to start going back towards it, and that's like a hard concept to learn.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also like, it's much harder. Like, as soon as you get into this turbulent bit of water, it's like much easier for it to throw you off balance. But that's why it's just really important to pay attention to your technique. Make sure you have each hand over each rail, and that you're nice and compressed in your stance.
Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. I hope this helps, and we'll see you next time.